Back once again with Erika Brown, the publisher and editor of The Cricket, covering all things Manchester and Essex Forest. How you doing, Erika?
I'm doing great. How are you, Corey?
Great. It's just the two of us today, though.
Oh, I know. Where's Heather?
Heather is away on assignment. We don't know. I think that's what we say it for now. But anyway, okay. Lots to unpack this week. We had that big ZBA meeting that just happened. What's the latest?
Yes. This actually is, I guess, hot off the presses. This happened last night. And so I haven't even written up the piece yet. I'm not going to write an extensive piece on it. I'm only going to write a short and clipped update on it. I don't typically, as you know, we've said this many times, I don't typically cover the 40B project, which is the SLV development that is being done through the 40B process for mass housing with affordable housing on the other side of 128 on Upper School Street. And we've mentioned this before several times that I don't do it. I allow the town to cover it because in the paper, because my husband, his family was the one that sold the land. So I just stay away from it. I cover a lot of affordable housing trust. Yes. Powderhouse Lane. Yes. Write a letter to the editor. Yes. But I don't actually drive the coverage to it. But however, there were two letters that came in, and I really do think they should be covered because they're important. And they were addressed last night, finally, formally by the town, and which means it happened. It's not conjecture or gossip. It actually happened. So here's what happened. I'll tell you quickly, and I could be brief. Jeffrey Engler is the owner of SLV. He received a letter personally from Mass Housing that was dated December the 10th. Although because it was to him and it wasn't involving Manchester directly, I guess. Maybe that's the reason why, but it was never sent to the town of Manchester, and it made its way to the town of Manchester probably around Christmas time because an abutter's lawyer actually sent it to them. So we all learned about it in the town, myself, the ZBA, everybody, in sort of late December while we were on our sort of year in review hiatus. So the letter is this: he was suspended from future 40B developments because of misrepresenting his relationship with, I think, a financial partner. It had to have been that, with a project in Wellesley from like 2019. And he was involved. They listed 44 40B projects that he has been involved with in some fashion, whether he's consulting with them or whether he owns them. I do not believe they're current, and I have not researched that, but I believe they're all recent memory to now, and Manchester was the last one listed. So Manchester is kind of involved, but for some reason they didn't get the letter. So everyone was sort of, there's been froth around about this. It was finally brought up by the ZBA last night, and Jeff Engler himself actually attended the meeting. And it was very interesting. He accepted responsibility and said it was a mistake because it was a mistake that a misjudgment on a relationship with somebody he shouldn't have been in a relationship with. I don't know what that means. Sounds like my college days. Joking, I'm sorry. Anyway, but anyway, that's what he said. He accepted responsibility, and I was, and it was, I think, tough medicine. Maybe went through it and then moved on. Sarah Mellish, who is the chairman, she asked for a certification that everything he has submitted with regard to this particular project is certified and true and accurate. And he said that was no problem. He was happy to do that. So I guess they're going to do that, and they're moving on. Now, the question is, will this mean any kind of elongation of the process? It doesn't appear to be anything, and it's still going to keep on going through the ZBA. I think there's 2 or 3 more meetings. It'll wrap up by the time we close April, I believe, with the ZBA. And then it also has to go through before the Conservation Commission. But at that point, we'll see what happens then. So that was one letter. Mm-hmm. Now the other letter was very interesting, and it was dated from Mass Housing to, this is Mass Housing to the town of Manchester. So they did get it, and they got it in a timely fashion. And that was dated December the 8th, just 2 days before they sent their letter to Mr. Engler. And it was denying the town's claim of what's called safe harbor. Do you know what the safe harbor? We've talked about this many times, about how there is a production plan. You're supposed to have a 10% level of affordable housing in any municipality, and it's regulated by the Massachusetts Department of Housing. And Manchester had, in an effort to kind of assert safe harbor, at least for a couple of years, 1 or 2 years, they were trying to use Powder House Lane to do that, to get into safe harbor. Powder House Lane, if you remember, is the 29-unit apartment building that a group raised $1.5 million in just a mere 6 weeks. Armed with the proper motivation.
If only, yeah. Yeah.
I need a proper motivation to get $1.5 million in 6 weeks. Anyway, so they actually purchased this and sort of set it in perpetuity to be affordable housing by donating it to North Shore CDC, and who is Mickey Northcutt. I had interviewed him about that. So what the town did was they sent a letter to the state in the fall, and they said, listen, 19 or 18 of these units are, from a survey of ours, are either, and the wording on this was so clever. They said, and get this, I'd love you to hear this, racially diverse and income qualified, low income qualified. So we should be able to skip over the fair housing marketing requirement for registering units as affordable housing. Now, guess what? They're not racially diverse.
Oh.
What they meant was, and they should have written, but they did not, they meant and or, right? They were either income qualified and or racially diverse. Right. It turns out when I followed up, it was only 2 of the units really were racially diverse. And really a huge requirement within the state to ensure fair housing is to require that 27% of your units be certified as racially diverse and or diverse, minority. And that has to do with religion, sexuality, and racial equality. So inclusion, racial inclusion. And so what you have to do is you have to market it for 90 days. If you don't get the proper type of people, you can market it wider in order to bring and ensure sort of a spectrum of racial diversity. Well, Manchester's assertion was it was already diverse, and so therefore they should be able to count those units. So that didn't pass muster. The other big thing, though, that didn't pass muster is these units have to be deed restricted, and they weren't, and I don't think they are any still, but they had to be restricted before like September something rather. And so as a result, they just they didn't make the cut. Now, the last thing I will say is that Sarah Mellish last night explained what their thinking was. She said that they were hopeful that they would be able to elongate the process in sort of appealing this to the state. And so they had to go into executive session in December and decide whether or not, this was a good thing to appeal this decision by the state that denied them safe harbor. And basically what they decided, my guess is that their attorneys, the town's attorneys, although I don't know this, that she did say that they were recommended by their attorneys not to appeal. But she used a phrase that I found to be really remarkable. She said, we didn't want them to think it was a frivolous appeal. And the key there is that if the state finds that you're trying in a frivolous way to just try anything to elongate something you don't like, then they'll find ways to basically make you pay the price for that, like things like make you pay lawyers' fees and things like that. And I think that they were told, listen, it's not going to be effective. You're not going to elongate anything, and you also might have to you might get a mark against you for it. And she actually said that. She said, listen, we realize that the very people we'd be appealing to are the very people that we need to work with later, and we don't want to make them feel badly about Manchester. So yeah, that's what happened. So there you go. Was that clear? Did I, any questions? Like, did you understand what I just said?
I do, yeah. A long story grows longer. It's the never-ending saga over by the sea. Yeah.
I mean, it's going through its process. I mean, and the way I watch it, I mean, and Greg Federspiel usually covers this for us, and I'm grateful for it. But basically, there are rules, and the town is trying everything that it can to find ways to either sidestep the rules or change the rules. But it's the rules, and it's going to proceed in the fashion that Massachusetts housing has set up.
Gotcha. All right, shifting gears now. We have some really cool stuff from Peter Phippen regarding the Great Marsh.
Oh my God, this is really good because I mean, I have to tell you, the first thing I did when I took over the paper in 2018 is I met with Brendan Zabricki, who is the town administrator in Essex. And it was in the fall, and I'll never forget this. One of the things he told me was, "Oh my gosh, are you familiar with the Great Marsh?" And I had no idea what it was, and I told him that. I said no, and he said, "Well, this week we're in Essex. We're going to have a Great Marsh symposium, and you should go because it's really important." So I almost equate the Great Marsh as like this place because he was correct. I did go to that symposium and I was amazed. It's 25,000 acres.
Mm-hmm.
Say that again, 25,000 acres that starts in southern New Hampshire. It extends, it pulls down through the Merrimack Valley, Ipswich, Essex, and then hooks up to West Gloucester and ends. And it is an incredible ecosystem that if you think about it, when I describe it to people, I say it's incredibly strategic for coastal resilience because it behaves like this natural, magical sponge. It's incredible. And it's incredible for research and it's incredible for coastal resiliency. So Peter Phippen, let's get back to him. Mm-hmm. He is a fixture in Essex. He is a long time on the Board of Selectmen, but he is a scientist. He's a hydrogeologist. I had to say that right. I had to look at it. Coastal scientist. He's been that for 40 years. And you want to hear his title, what he does for a living? Because I have to read it. And when you see this, he is the coordinator right now of the 8 Towns and the Great Marsh Committee, which is a division of the Mass Bays Natural Estuary Partnership and the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission.
That subtitle would fill up the entire screen right there.
That is a mouthful. That is a mouthful. But listen, nobody knows more than he does. And we asked him because we wanted somebody who could basically write dispatches because it's endless. He could write about green crabs. He could write about, he could write about sediment and the idea of resiliency through strategic placement of sediment within that they're studying now, by the way, all sorts of things. So he wrote an amazing first piece that I recommend to anybody on the introduction to and I'm going to show this. I know you don't like it when I do this all the time, but it's a great introduction to the Great Marsh.
Beautiful.
Where he really goes into it. Now he's going to write regular dispatches. I haven't told him necessarily how often, but I'm hoping there'll be maybe 12 a year.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
That's really good news. Yeah, he does amazing work. Awesome stuff too. Anything else, Erika?
I mean, didn't I just talk too much?
That's a lot. That's a lot. Let's do it again next week, folks. Get the cricket. I do.
You're so funny.
All right, bye for now, Erika.
Bye.
Interested in a sponsorship? Email sponsor@1623studios.org to learn more.